So, Rawan, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that came, actually. We weren't really expecting people to come, so this is really cool. Shukran ilkum. And I'm very excited for all of you to listen to what Rawan has to say. She's really, really awesome. We can actually start right away. And Rawan, قبل ما نبلش, I just want say a few things about you. Just introduce yourself quickly.
Arabic or in English? I got confused when you switched Arabic. So my name is Rowan Alawi from Ramallah, Palestine, and I'm a mechatronics engineer by education. So it's a control engineering between electrical, mechanical, and IT from Birzat University. I graduated in 2014, so this is the typical introduction for any Arab. And then I worked at a high-tech startup for about 40 years. And after that, I decided it's about time for me to quit my job and build my own startup that is a combination between my family business, something that I love, something that I'm passionate about. And this is where Amal came from. I'm the CEO and a founder for a startup called Amal, which is a marketplace that matches construction workers with contractors to bring transparency and fairness to this hectic industry. And we also provide SaaS, such as time attendance, location tracking, and budgeting.
Okay, amazing. So that was a bit fast. I'm just going to bring it back. So you said you quit your job and you started your own thing.
Yeah.
Right? اللي هو عمل.
True.
Okay, so tell us in detail, I would like to know, first of all, what made you say it's time to quit my job? That's the first thing I want to know. Because I'm sure there's people here that might be thinking that, I don't know, might be thinking, yalla, maybe it's time, I have to start. And especially, so this talk is called Entrepreneurship Under Occupation. So that's another thing that we're going to get into in a bit. But I would really want to know, yani, what made you say, khalas, it's time. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start my own thing.
Oh, very good question. And a lot of people can give you different answers, but I'm going to give you my version.
Yes.
So my version is that I always wanted to build my own thing. And at the age of 23, I went to my boss and he was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was fresh graduate. I was just planning for my future. And I looked at him, I was like, 5 years from now, I'm going to have my own business. He was like, cool, where is it? And I was like, I have no clue. So I always wanted to, but I didn't know how. So I started saving money for my own thing that I didn't know what. And I think at a certain point, because I was always surrounded by entrepreneurs that always were working on their own things, like either CTOs.
At your job?
At my jobs, yeah, through my own network. Like whenever I want to go out with the friends, he will be complaining about fundraising, or he will be complaining about the new release if he's a CTO. So that was always part of my network in Ramallah, I would say. And I got intrigued into startups because of my job. I worked at a startup. I worked for more than 4 years. I was one of the first quality assurance engineers at that department. Then I jumped from one position to another. So I did understand the journey of building a startup. I did understand the risk of building a startup. And I think at a certain point, a friend called me and she was like, you know what? I'm done working with my dad. What about we both resign and open our own thing? And that when like things start to become more clear that maybe it is time, like it's almost becoming 5 years. And I tried, my friend and I, while being in my job. So I didn't resign back then, and it didn't work out. And
because you were still working.
Didn't work out. No, I was still in my job. I was doing things on the side with my friend, and just things didn't work out. And 2 years later, I had a conversation, a one-to-one conversation with one of my friends at work. And the conversation was like, where are you headed? You keep jumping from one position to another. And this is something that you need to be familiar with. Startups, they work in a very fast rhythm. One day you're a fresh graduate, the second day you're a project manager for one of the biggest customers. And I was jumping from one position to another. And he was like, you keep jumping and jumping and jumping. You need to settle in. You need to know where you are headed, because the next big thing maybe will not satisfy your challenges, the one that you're looking for. And I was like, maybe it's the next challenge is me starting my own business. And at a certain point, after I closed that chapter, it was like an entire department that I was working at. When things start being more stable, I was working like normal hours, like 6 hours. I went to the HR, I was like, do you have more stuff to give me, or should I resign? And I think that HR was
Mm,
this is the normal workload. You got used to working 16 hours a day, so just enjoy it and have fun.
mm,
And for me, that wasn't having fun. I felt that I wasn't being productive.
yeah.
And maybe it's time to focus on the problem that I always did see in front of me. Like, as you said, like we live in occupied Palestine. So I
So,
had to go to Jerusalem. Yeah.
yeah, but just to pick up on that, yani, entrepreneurship for me is it's also it's about solving problems. You know, I think that's a really cool part of it. For Inti, what was yani, when you were starting your business, did you have a problem in mind that you were looking to solve?
Yes. So this is what I was telling you about. Like family business, it was always a problematic for me. This is why I didn't want to work with them, because they were still using pen and paper. They work in construction and finishing construction. So that was always annoying for me. And if I want to go like fantasy, I will do like Excel sheets. So that was always a problem, but I never knew how to solve it. Working at a startup did open my eyes into other solution that I could use. However, because I had to go to Jerusalem every once in a while, and I was able to see the workers, and that point I was like, interesting. So my dad always complains about finding these workers, and
Mm,
these workers are just sitting on the checkpoints waiting for someone to pick them up, and it's obviously a gap. But I think the problem over here that my dad and other construction companies, they're not willing to hire these people because they're not familiar with their skill set.
okay.
And that was actually always in my mind, and that was always something that I wanted to do in construction, but I didn't know how, or like at the start at age 23 I really didn't know what I'm going to do it with. Age 24 I was like, clear, it's going to be construction. And then I was like, how exactly, which sector should I tap to, because construction is a huge one. And this is where it was about manpower and the construction workers.
Mm, okay, that's really cool. And so then you had those two problems, and you started your own platform to connect these two people, basically. Amazing. I had a question, Rawan, about specifically living under occupation and having to go to Jerusalem and stuff. What's the biggest setback? Yani, let's say there's no occupation. What changes for
Yeah,
entrepreneurship? What changes for you?
like for us, as like for my product, it will completely change,
Mm,
because right now for my product, like I working, like I was supposed to validate my product here in Palestine,
yeah.
but the market in Palestine is completely different
Mm,
than any other market from Jordan, for example.
mm,
Here in Palestine, we're completely blocked. We don't have foreign workers. We don't have HR companies. We don't have back huge projects. And we heavily depend on donations, on other people to start
So
operating.
yep, before you go, so you said
Yeah.
no foreign workers, no HR. إيش الثالثة؟
No big projects. So the
So
biggest project,
how did you tackle those three things specifically?
yeah. So here in Palestine, we decided to work with what we have. So the scale was very small.
Mm,
The KPI that we were able to generate, they have nothing to do with the other markets, such as Jordan or the Gulf. They cannot be related to other markets, and this is why we had to take a step back and do another validation on another market, such as Saudi Arabia.
yeah, Saudi. I know you're
Where
looking to get into that market. I just had Rashid said, can Rawan present her project briefly? So she did at the beginning, but yeah, tell us briefly what is AmalWork?
Yeah, so Amal, we are a marketplace to match construction workers with contractors. So it's B2B. If you're a construction company, you can get subcontractors, skilled workers, unskilled workers, HR companies applying for your projects, and you can select the best one of them based on your need and based on their own skill set and previous experience. And we provide a SaaS service such as time attendance, so you would know when did they enter the site, when did they leave the site, how many hours did they work. both you and the workers can know how many hours, if they worked overtime, how much money they should get paid for the overtime. And that kind of transparency is actually not, it doesn't exist in the construction industry, unfortunately. We provide locational tracking as well, and we provide payment tracking for now.
Amazing. طيب
Oh,
رشيد
you're welcome.
رشيد عبد الحميد أبوي, by the way. Just to let you
Oh
know.
my God. It's so nice to meet you.
So
That's so nice of him, like supporting you, you know?
أيوة, yeah, he's always supporting me. So I wanted to get into just entrepreneurship in specific بفلسطين. Do
Yeah.
you think that entrepreneurship, number one, tell us about the ecosystem. Yani, some people might not know about the ecosystem. How is it? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it booming? Like, tell us.
So I would say, with all things considered, I think Palestinian in general, they're an amazing troubleshooter. And as Amir Zahar once said, we don't have plan B. So we always have to succeed in plan A.
Okay.
And so as individuals, they're very smart. They know how to tackle things.
Mm-hmm.
But as an ecosystem, it's extremely weak, one of the weakest in the entire region.
Mm-hmm.
And I think occupation does play a part, because you really don't wanna they don't want us like to blossom or to grow. They just want us to stay the way that we are. But as I told you, like, we are the new generation. we only have plan B. Yeah, you have to succeed in plan A. Definitely, I agree. So I would say the ecosystem needs a lot of work. Another problem that we have is the financial stability, because we don't have a financial stability. Whenever someone has a good job, they're not willing to leave, and that creates
So
an
no
extra.
risks being taken, basically.
Exactly. So no one is going to take a risk, because they just need to survive for the next day. 71% of the Palestinians are self-employed. If they work, they get paid. If they don't work, they don't get paid. Their family will not have food in their table the next day. So this is one of the problems that we have when it comes to financial. Yeah.
Rowan, to pick up on that point, so how did you make that jump? Because it was a risk to start your own company, huh? So what made you so like, what would you tell someone living in Palestine now that's like, okay, I kind of want to quit my job, but come on, it's, so what would you tell that person?
So I tell them that you need to be realistic. I'm someone who's also very realistic, Marwan. So what I did is that I worked my A out for 5 years at that company to have enough money in my bank accounts that I can survive for the next year.
Okay.
And to invest in my own company. If you don't have that luxury, that's okay. Apply for accelerators, for incubators, but do not think that these accelerator incubators are in Palestine, because in Palestine we don't have money. Okay, so think big, apply for other accelerator incubators in Europe, in the US, in Gulf. I would definitely aim for Gulf right now, because the ecosystem is booming and they have a lot of money, and Palestinians are known over there like to succeed. So there's a lot of accelerators that support you from idea stage, as long as you have big goals. So my recommendation to you, never give up on your dreams. Always think and have short-term goals and long-term goals. For me, the short-term, like saving money to be able to build my own company. Someone, I think you know this about me. I don't like taking money from my parents at all. So like, I'm not gonna take anything. I'm not taking investment from them. And the four F that would invest in an early stage of startups, they do not exist in Palestine. Let's put it this way.
Okay.
And how many VCs? We don't have a lot of VCs in Palestine, and the VCs that we have here in Palestine, their evaluation for the company will be a bit low. So I also do not recommend it. So bootstrap if you had to. Apply for other accelerators around the world, and there is always competitions that you can apply to, and this is called patient capital. So go for it, and this is what I actually did. I invested my own money. I decided not to take money from VCs here in Palestine. I applied for international competition, Expo. So we got a good amount of money from them. UNICEF Innovation Fund. It wasn't easy, but this is how you can prove that you have an idea that has been validated, and you are investing your time on it, and can be like a good validation
Amazing.
from this competition.
Yeah. Okay, I still have a lot to say, but we have 12 people on, and I want to know, before I get back into it, does anyone have any questions? I know that I see Yusuf Al-Hallaq here from Gaza Sky Geeks. So hi, Yusuf, very nice to see you. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand for Rawan. We can do that now. Tim.
Yusuf is my friend.
Yusuf. Hi.
Hi for both of you, to be honest. Like it's a pleasure to be here.
Hello, Yusuf. Thank you so much for being here. Do you agree with what Rawan was saying about you need to get out of Palestine? Because I know you work at an accelerator yourself.
Yeah, I think this is the best way, but and in the ideal case. But depends also sometimes about the skills you have and the connection you have and the experience and all of these things. So it's not easy for all people to go outside and convince people that have something like very strong. But like Rowan is special and have a lot of experience, so she can do that.
Amazing.
But yeah, this is the ideal case. But if you can do this, I think you can start like with something in Palestine, and then you can move forward like for other. So it depends on the case itself and the people.
Yeah, makes sense. I see Tim has a question. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, this is more technical. So Marwan and I, one of the big things we've struggled with is the product side, because none of us is technical or codes. So I don't know if you're the coding part of the company, but if you're not, how did you go about building the product? Did you outsource it? Did you try to find a tech co-founder? What was your approach to the product side?
That is an excellent question. And that is a huge struggle for any entrepreneur in the world, especially because tech people are in very, very high demand, and they have the highest salaries here in Palestine. So no one is going to leave their very high paying their salaries and financial stability to risk in a startup. However, I'm not a technical person. So your question is very relevant to me, but I have good experience in technical because I did work at a high-tech startup and I had to wear a lot of hats, especially in product. And that was something that I did take advantage of. However, I tried a couple of things. So I tried outsourcing, and it's a huge failure because there is always a problem with an outsourcing company. And I got to a point that the right solution is to find a CTO, a technical co-founder. At the beginning, you should not, you need time to get to know that person. So you need to date. You need to date at least for 4 to 5 months to get to know each other. And once you trust that person, you can give them a small task to do, like give them a website to develop for free, because they're getting in as a co-founder. And once you see the result, once you see they are detail oriented, once you see they actually understand the business, when they match your goals and you both of you have aligned agenda for the future, then yes, you hire them. And once you hire them, I'm pretty sure you don't have enough funding, so it should be shares that you give them. So have the shares as vesting, so with 1 year left. So every year they will get a certain amount of that shares, and that actually worked with me. Wasn't easy. It took me a year to find my co-founder and my CTO. And I'm grateful that I found him after a year. You know why? Because right now I appreciate him, and I feel that we could not make it further without him.
Wow, thank you so much for that answer. We've been struggling with that.
Another note that I can give you, because of the financial risk, like what I did, another thing is that I told him not to resign from his job, because if you want the best, of course he's going to have like the best job ever. So it's like, don't resign from your job. Let's try to get things moving. And once we raise Series A, you resign and you're full-time employee with us. And that did work. because he need to relocate a certain amount of hours to work with us, and he need to deliver the product. And this is what you want him to deliver, not just to be sitting in front of you. So if he can do both and can he organize his time, wonderful. If he can't, he's not the right time, he's not the right person as well.
Thank you for that. I saw that Anthony come on. Anthony wanted
Yeah, I had a question. How do you cope with like the frustration of knowing that if you didn't live under occupation, it would probably be easier to start a business?
Interesting question. I never thought of it, to be honest. I always look to the bright side, to be honest, and I always look at everything that is going to teach us a lot. So me being in occupied Palestine, taught me a lot as a person. So I'm very patient. So that is something. The fact that I was able to see a struggle that a lot of people would ignore. Like a lot of people do have construction workers sitting in the parking lots, but because I have been spending hours in the checkpoints waiting to pass, you have this kind of conversation. So of course I'm not grateful to the occupation, but I think we find a way to just cope. And I believe if I'm just nagging and just crying and complaining, I will get nowhere. So I either have the option to sit down and cry and say like I live in an occupied Palestine, or just say that, okay, I'm occupied. How can I solve this for myself, for my economy, for my own community, and improve things? And it's hard and extremely hard. But you just need to do it, and you need to cope with it. Like for today, I had a meeting at 4:30, and I know like I live in a village near Ramallah, which is 12 kilometers away from my co-working space. 12 kilometers. So it should take me 10 minutes or less to get home. And I had to leave the meeting, take the rest of the meeting on my phone. I got home before the checkpoints have closed, and I was able to take the other meeting. So I was able to find ways to work around it. And I'm someone who's very optimistic, I would say. This is how I don't normally get frustrated. I know it would be easier. Like I always tell that to my friends. Things will be much more easier, and you will have to work 3 times more than a normal person just to be able to start to get more attention to you. But the way I think about it is I always know why I'm doing that, and it's always at the back of my mind. Why am I doing that? Why I'm doing that? Because 1, I want to give back to my community. 2, we really need to have a success story in Palestine, so people will start giving more attention to Palestine, and the future generation will have it a bit easier. So I have it actually much more easier than a guy that tried to open a startup 10 years ago. So year after year, we're going to make things easier for the future generation. Now, this is, I think, what keeps me going, because I was at an early stage, I was able to know my why, and just focus on the why and ignore everything else, even if that means the occupation, and find ways around it.
Wow.
I also wanted to ask, is it harder to have a business because you're a woman? Because I know like women, not women businessmen, women in business is kind of like a new concept, especially in the Arab world. Did you find any challenges?
So I'm extremely lucky that I grew up in a family that always never mentioned that I was a woman. So if someone would ask me that, I was like, do you normally ask a guy how it's like to open a startup in Palestine? Because it's pretty hard. But I would say I was extremely lucky with my family, because they made me feel like I'm fully empowered. So opening a business in Palestine was hard as a woman in the MENA region. I started to notice that when I start operating, yes. But as I told you, like whenever I find a struggle, I just focus on the why and ignore everything else. I could tell you all about the funny stories that I had, but I completely forget them at the end of the day, because they mean nothing to me. And what I'm focused about is that making my business successful, regardless if I'm a woman or if I'm wearing hijab or not, because in the Gulf you should wear hijab. And so it really didn't matter to me. I'm just fully focused. And this is how you actually can have a startup. You're just being fully focused on why you are doing it and have goals and ignoring all the other factors. Because if you would listen to the other people, you will not be focused and you cannot build a startup because there's a lot of distractions. And I keep saying it over and over, you just need to be focused on what is your goal, and you can break down your milestones. Like, I think, Marwan, you asked me a question about or no. So you just need to have an ambition, then you need to have goals, and these goals need to be broken down into uh, small things that you can achieve in the short term. And this way you can just stay focused on these and ignore anything else that anyone would say, because people will keep talking, people will push you down. And I always say, I'm just looking for 3% of the entire market share in the MENA region. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have their own opinion, but they will be from the 97, and keep them complain. I'm okay with that.
There you go. That's amazing. Anthony, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for your question.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, Shikla, for now we're good. I wanted to talk to you about promoting entrepreneurship in Palestine, because I'm a big believer, in entrepreneurship as a means of solving problems. What do you think the first, I know that like from now 10 years, looking back like 10 years ago, there's been obviously a shift in the way that people think, but do you think there's still this mindset of, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, if you like fashil, or is that not a thing anymore?
أظن إنه هاي شوي.
Is it looked down upon in Palestinian society?
I don't think so. To be honest, I think things has changed. I'm gonna tell you a funny story, and the story is that every time we onboard workers to our platform, we do a vetting for them. So we call them, we do an interview with them. The interview would last for 1 hour, 13 minutes, depends on the conversation. And one time we had a conversation, my operation manager was sitting next to me, and she was like, did you finish high school? And he was like, I'm a lawyer. My operation manager was like, what? You're a what? And he was like, I'm a lawyer. And she was like, okay, awesome. Then you definitely know how to read and to write and know how to create a profile. Yes, thank you. And she was like rumbling, and she was like, I need to end the conversation. And she put the phone on the table, and she looked at me, and she was like, he's a lawyer. And I was like, I heard. And I started telling her my opinion about the community that we live in and how bad it is. 10 minutes later, he called back, and my operation manager came up to me, and she was like, I made a huge mistake. I forgot the phone, and he listened to our entire conversation.
No.
And he wanted to tell you that do not feel sorry for him, because he's happy as a construction worker, and he's getting paid triple what he would get if he's a lawyer. And the reason for that, Marwan, I'm gonna tell you why. Because right now, a lot of the universities are graduating engineers, lawyers, doctors. I think they're still on the safe side, but the majority of the people, they graduate from the university with high degrees, but there's no jobs for them. So they start looking for other options. And this is why the community stopped looking down to anyone that doesn't have an amazing degree, such as being an engineer or a lawyer.
The job don't exist anymore, basically.
Exactly. So people will look up to you if you were able to find a job, or if you were able to create your own identity by yourself. This is how people look up to you. Some people are great salespeople and they don't have a degree from high school, and everyone will be like, damn, that guy is amazing. That girl was able to make it by herself. I know a lot of females who were able to build amazing businesses out of e-commerce, and they didn't have any kind of education to support what they are doing, and a lot of the community are looking up to them and consider them as idols. So no, that kind of stereotype have stopped, thank God. Of course you will find them here and there, because a lot of people like to have the degree itself and not work on it, you know, like my dad is proud that he has 3 sons that are doctors and 3 daughters who are engineers or whatever. So it's good to it's a great story for your mom to tell her neighbors and to brag about you. But I think we're becoming more realistic, because you need to work, and these professions, unfortunately, you cannot work with them in Palestine nowadays.
Yeah, I wanted also to ask Yusuf his opinion in Gaza, because now there's a big, I mean, Yusuf works with the tech STEM and stuff. So Yusuf, I wanted to ask you if you're still there. In Gaza, is there still also a stereotype, or are people opening up to, you know, like freelance work, etc.? How is that?
Yeah, I think it's the situation, like it's the same what Rowan mentioned, but like also in Gaza and specifically, I think all of the families now thinking about the freelancing and working via internet. So they all the time like work via internet and using internet. This is the most like important or like famous things now, because like even if they have a doctor like graduated from medical school, they can like have a salary around $350 from the government, which is like it's nothing, like, you know, after 7 years of
Yeah.
all of these like things. So I think, yeah, the situation is in some ways like having some advantage, let's say, for example, and that this is one of the advantage from like this.
Yeah, so it's a bad situation, but there's positives that come out of it, which is
Yeah,
breaking.
that's what we are like
Um,
trying to focus on it.
just to elaborate a little bit more, so when we are speaking about a lawyer, like they will have to finish 4 years at the university, then they have to practice for another 2 years for free. That means for the entire time, and they're not allowed to work anything else through these 6 years. So you are speaking about 6 years from your life not getting a penny. And then when you start to have a career, no one will come to you. You have to work with the big ones, and the big ones actually always overloaded with the amount of people who would apply. So if you were lucky, extremely lucky, to find a job after a year or two as a lawyer still, you will get paid $500 to $600 a month, which is not enough living in Palestine.
Yeah.
When we are speaking about engineers, you will be working more than 50 hours a week, 6 days a week as well, and you will barely make $600. So yes, people are stopped looking at this, because I think it's becoming you need to really build yourself and to find a way around the system that you are living in.
So I think that entrepreneurship is something that's very healthy for Palestine. Yeah.
Yep.
So how do we promote that in the society?
That's a very good question, and I think that would be a follow-up for the question that you asked, but I didn't answer, which is how is the ecosystem in Palestine? So the ecosystem in Palestine is heavily depends on donations for the longest time, and that was a problem. If the US have extra money, they will send us, and the organization will have their own KPIs. They will hit the KPIs, and voila, what's next? They don't follow up with the entrepreneur because they don't have an incentive to actually have a sustainable business. They're just looking for a fresh graduate to give them a couple of courses to say to their donors, yes, we were able to hit our goals. And this is not the way to build an ecosystem. So the right way to build, not the right way, but the way to actually promote entrepreneurship in Palestine, I would say, one, we really need to have a success story. We really need people to actually create startups. And this is how I always say it. Like 10 years ago, we had like 10, like I think 7 or 8 startups. And most of the people who are right now are opening their own startups. They actually worked in a previous startup. So this is the right way and the healthy way to build an ecosystem that people take risk. They struggle a lot because the people before me were able to struggle even more. And the people who work for these startups will be able to gain the experience and will be able to see the value, will look for other problems, and will try to tackle these problems through their own journey. This is the right way. And the right way to do it, what we need from our economy. So this is the right way to do it. But what can the economy do, the community do to us? One, the private sector need to step up. The government need to step up and to start helping us. Because as you mentioned, like we have zero money as a young people. How can you create a business? How can you survive? Not create a business. How can you sustain yourself and live if you cannot pay the bills? So the government needs to start giving like maybe grants, not huge grants. I'm always against grants, but like something small to
Safety nets.
What?
Like a safety net.
Exactly, just to help you like kick off the ground. And that's it. Private sector also need to step up and start helping you validate your idea. You need someone to validate your idea. Right now, like if I'm working in a construction company, I need a construction company that will come and say, you know what, I'm not paying you anything, but I will give you the option to test it in my own company. This is huge for a startup to start validating and to find the product market fit. So you need the private sector like to start helping by by helping us try to find the product market fit. Nothing more. We're not asking for financial support, and this is the least that they can do.
Yes.
And
what I will say about that, Rawan, Kaman, I think just to plug GrowHome a bit, I think that the diaspora can be a huge
totally
help as well, you know, because the way I see it is I put myself in the shoes of like a young kid in Gaza that's listening to this, for example, and then they have something like GrowHome where they'll be able to go on the platform and ask specifically for what they need and have someone from Silicon Valley come and validate their product for free, you know? So I do think that the diaspora, you know, we have so much experience everywhere, and I really think if we start to get involved, even in terms of investments, because people want to invest in Palestine, they just don't have that link. So I just wanted to plug that really quick.
I totally agree, and I think it's also very much important. You know why? Because I think one of the things that the occupation does is that divide to conquer, and they were able to do it for the longest term, you know, for the longest time. Like Yusuf, how can I meet Yusuf? How can I meet you? You know, like Gaza are completely they're completely blocked from the entire world. We're speaking about people in diaspora. They're not sure if there is even a startup scene in Palestine. So I think it's very much important just to stay connected as Palestinians together, to keep our heritage alive and share our own experience. And I think we always, like as a Palestinian, I think we always click over any kind of struggle that we went through, you know, like I never met a Palestinian that I didn't click with, and we didn't start speaking about like the land and about the Haifa or whatever, you know. So I think it's always good, and I think that can be and we always tend to help each other and try to lift each other any way that we can. So we actually need to take advantage of this and try to actually create a platform that would be able to connect us correctly and to have, yes, of course, you grow home. So yes, I totally agree. I think I told you this before, like I think this is very much needed, and it's about time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But good things take time, so it's okay.
Of course it takes time, of course. I wanted to say one last thing, just Inti Karawan. So I know you have plans to expand to Saudi, into the Gulf, but what are your future plans? Not necessarily from a business perspective, but just like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay. So where do I see myself in 5 years? So business-wise, of course, because if you're an entrepreneur, everything is about business.
So tell me, I just meant like as a person, Yani, what are you trying to do?
Yeah. So I would assume that within 5 years, I hope that I would be able to exit. I would hope that we had more than 30 employees who worked with us and they had shares and they got good return of investment on the time they have spent with us, and they decided to open their own startups no matter where their startup is. I think this is, and we start getting more VCs in Palestine because they start seeing there is actually a success stories in Palestine, a couple of them.
Opportunity.
So exactly. So you just need one person to break the cycle, so people will start coming to Palestine and get more attention. So in 5 years, I really hope that we're going to have a couple of VCs. The private sector will be able to support more. The government will, like right now, the government, they have Ministry of Entrepreneurship and Youth. I hope that they would be able to do something with it and not just have it as an entity in the country. I really hope within 5 years, whatever I can do in my own startup, like every time we compete, every time we do something is not Rowan. It's most of the time Amal, but always it's Palestine, and it's always in the headline, like Palestine for the first time. Like no one ever made it to the top 25 among 175,000 startups ever. And bitch to Mr. Wonderful, he's one of my idols, you know. So having the name of Palestine, that will get more attention. And I really hope like within 5 years, it really doesn't matter, Marwan, if I had as I told you, like it depends the success story from one person to another. It could be an exit. It could be that I was able to close, but I had more than 100 employees. I will be satisfied with that as well. If I had a couple of employees who did see the value, and then they started their own startups, because this is how you, as I told you, this is how you create a healthy startup scene in any country.
That's amazing. I want to open it up to questions, but last thing that I wanted to ask you is, how does entrepreneurship tackle occupation? Is there a link between the two? Not necessarily political, but yani, can you ignore occupation when you focus on entrepreneurship, or is there a way for entrepreneurship to sort of get involved in solving these problems that we face in Palestinian?
I think we can, بس إذا بدك إنك تدخل to solve these kind of problems رح تضطر تتعامل مع أولاد عمنا. So it's up to you if you want to or if you don't want to. For me,
so is that okay? Actually, that's interesting. Talk to me about normalization, تطبيع, especially in the business world.
yes.
For people,
Yes.
I don't know if everyone knows, but like normalization is just like deals between Israelis and Palestinians. A lot of people are against that. So Rawan, tell me a bit about that.
So just to explain, normalization means making something unnormal normal. So I'm not always afraid of the word normalization. I'm always worried about the word adaptation. So I don't want me or any other Palestinian to adopt for our lifestyle, to make it's okay to have checkpoints. It's okay if you want to go to Jerusalem, you will have to apply for a permit and you need to wait for 3 hours to get there. This is insane. So normalization in tech specifically, it's everywhere because we are living next to the startup nation. I think you can either look at it in different ways. So you can take advantage of it and try to milk it as much as you can, and then implement it in your own ecosystem. I think that could work because they did
learn from them, basically learn some things.
Learn as much as you can. Try to milk the knowledge that they have as much as you can, and implement it away. Or like I try not to judge anyone. To be honest, I try not to judge anyone. When it comes to the tech industry, like the majority of the startups, not the startups, like most of the companies here in Palestine in tech, they are outsourcing companies. And whereas being outsourcing company, they work with them. And because Intel has the biggest R&D center in Jerusalem, Facebook, they have an office, Amazon, it's the startup nation, they call it. So of course, most of the outsourcing company here in Palestine, they have to work with the nearest market. So I always say, try to learn as much as you can, try to implement it if you want to, and no judges, as long as you try to help your own economy and try to help your own people. And just because it's the way I look at it is that you do have two options. It's just sit down and cry, as I mentioned before, or try to take advantage and utilize them for your own good, for your own community, for your own economy. Our entire economy is depending on them. So try to separate this and we need us as youth, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, to improve our economy, and we need to be independent not dependent on them. And the way to do that, even if that makes us work with them at a certain point to get the knowledge that we want, that's okay. That would be
What I
my
will
opinion.
say about knowledge is that, yani, I'll give you a straight up example. من عنا, the Israel has used this diaspora in a very, very efficient way.
Yes.
You know? And so we need to learn from them, India as well. But like that's a really good point that you were making. So thank you for that. I wanna open it up for questions, for comments. There's 12 people actually here. So does anyone have any comments or questions for Rawan?
It's just like a small comment about what the last answer from Rowan. Like I'm totally agree about the idea of normalization and adaptation. So I think we should like work hard to not like feel that this is okay with us to have this situation, but also for being involved with the tech and startup nation from like in Israel. I think from my point of view, I didn't want or like the idea to generalize this like way of doing things. So maybe this my point of view is because like we are living in Gaza, so and we are like it's totally locked down. We can't go to Israel or the West Bank or like deal with them. So from a people living in Gaza, if you go and make this business easy or like, I think it's like dangerous if we make this like general for all people and for all like youth, especially in Palestine. So personally, I'm with the idea is that some people like if they have this knowledge and capacity and like awareness and all of these things to deal with this like situation, I think it's good. But I don't think it's good all the time with all cases. And that's like when but like it's totally different if you are living in Israel. So for the Arab Israeli, like Arab, the Palestinian like living in Israel, so it's 100% that they should do that and they should like try hard to get the knowledge and experience and connections, because like the situation there is allowed. This is not this is the best way to have these knowledge. So I think it depends on the place and the people itself. But yeah, I think of course there is an opportunity there, but also you should be like curious and like uh, aware when and where and how you can use this, because like I listen many times from a people like the Palestinian living in Israel that sometimes a lot of great opportunity it's forbidden for Arab, for Palestinian living there. So it's not easy, even like if you are living there, it's not easy to access this top level of knowledge and connection. So yeah, it's a very complicated, and just a small comment about this.
Thank you so much, Yusuf, for saying that they are Palestinians the same way that you are, and me and Marwan and everyone that you can identify yourself as a Palestinian wherever you are. I think a lot of them do not like the word Arab Israelis.
Yeah, I just like
So
corrected
thank
like
you
very
so much
fast.
for
Yeah.
correcting that, because they're my friends and I know a lot of them
Yeah.
have a problem being called this way. So thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else want to say anything?
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Ahmad.
First of all, I want to thank Marwan for this platform. You know, as a diaspora, I'm ashamed of the many times I took my privilege for granted. So thank you for this wake-up call.
Man, I'm glad. I'm glad. You shouldn't feel ashamed. To be honest, I think you just need to. We need to start switching the mentality and start using the privilege that we have. You know what I mean?
Facts. I agree. So my question is, what do you look for? You know, as a startup, as a manager of a company in Palestine, what do you look for from us diasporas outside of Palestine? Is it only financial support? If not, how could we help in a way that's not related to investments, etc.?
Thank you so much. And again, I like to emphasize on what Marwan said. You should never feel ashamed. It's always. I think this is something that occupation try to impose on us as much as they can, like divide to conquer. And what we can do is people like Marwan try to connect us everywhere, from the diaspora, from within Palestine itself, from 48 to Gaza to everywhere. And so never feel ashamed of it. I think a lot of startups fail not because of lack of funding. I think I had a conversation with Marwan about that. It's never about the money. And I think what we would need from the diaspora and from Palestinian everywhere is that to be able to validate our ideas with them, to be able to use our platforms, to have them as customers. No, I believe that to have a sustainable business is not about getting funding or getting to raise investment. It's always about having a sustainable business when you have customers that they like the product, getting feedback as a customer, that would be very much appreciated. Doing introductions to people who might be interested to anyone, that would be so much appreciated. If you have a certain knowledge in a certain area, such as marketing, such as sales, that would be very much appreciated as well, because if we were just speaking about how diaspora can help people in Palestine, Palestine is completely blocked. Like you cannot have a mentor from the US. They can enter, but if your market is not in the US, it's in the MENA region. The kind of mentality is completely different. So someone in the diaspora who have been working in marketing, he will understand the mentality here in the MENA region. So these kind of small things, they actually make a huge difference in our life. And it's very, very hard to find these people, to be honest. And I know Christian everywhere, they have the experience and they have the knowledge, but it's so hard to find them. And so,
No,
yeah.
so Rawan, what I will say, Ahmed, thank you so much for your question. Rawan, you just described Grow Home. So, described mentorship, collaboration, and networking. And those
Yeah.
are the three things that we are looking to offer, and we're looking to make it easy to find those people. Because when I talk about Grow Home, what I always say is, imagine you could have a business exec working at Google in Silicon Valley, واحد فلسطيني, connect with an entrepreneur from Gaza. 1 hour, a conversation of not 30 minutes, both of their lives are changed. Because the guy in San Francisco that's, you know, felt ashamed his whole life, like Ahmed was kind of saying, because I know the feeling of not being able to do enough. He or she has actually helped someone in Palestine, and the entrepreneur got either validation, introduced to someone. So the amount of human capital that can be created from that connection is huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, Ahmed, thank you a lot for your question. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to mobilize the diaspora's resources intellectually. Because financially, yeah, it's important, but نحن دايما بنحس إنه the only way we can help إنه ندعم ماليا. We can only send money. That's not true. You know, we can. You're clapping. Yeah, that's what. No, I mean, really, the cool thing about Grow Home is that someone like Rawan could come, would go onto the platform, sign up, etc., and she would put, you know, I need someone to help me with marketing. I need, you know, a life mentor. I need someone to introduce me to someone in Saudi Arabia. And then you would get that, you would get someone like Ahmed who would come in and say, oh, they would get that notification. I call them opportunities. And they'd be like, oh my God, I know someone in Saudi Arabia that could help you. Bam. You know,
Yeah,
you've created something. And so, yeah, that's kind of.
I totally agree with you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so much, Ahmad, and never feel ashamed. Thank you.
Yes.
Noted.
Amazing. Okay. Does anyone have any more? We'll start wrapping up now. I don't want to take too much of Rawan's time. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay.
I was COVID, guys.
don't think anyone has any other questions. But Rawan, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope to have you back sometime when you're, you know, $1 billion company. That'll be really cool. And yeah, Jad, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say? You want to plug? Yeah, your anything you want to?
I'm truly grateful for everyone because you tuned in and you listened to us. So thank you so much. And
This is going to be a podcast on Spotify, and it's going to be uploaded so people can listen to it.
Perfect. So thank you, truly, and always never let anything break your dreams. Always chase your dream and always follow them and always be resilient. Us Palestinians, as Marwan and I can easily connect, that we are known to be huge resilience. So never give up and keep fighting for what you believe in.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. طيب.
Thank
يلا.
you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye bye.